Hi everybody, welcome to our third week of music class. My name is Mrs. Worden again, and this week we are going to be learning about some woodwind instruments. Instruments like the flute and the clarinet, and I'll also get to show you a little bit of the violin, which is called a string instrument. So lots of new instruments today. If you remember last week we talked about what kind of instruments? Brass instruments, yep, and we saw the trumpet and the French horn. And this week again, we will look at the woodwind instruments and a string instrument. And of course, we're going to start with our scarf song warm-up, so you'll need your scarves. And we are going to finish today learning about some musical symbols and what some of those might mean. Some notes and some rhythms and such. Another piece of equipment you will need for class today is an empty water bottle, maybe an empty pop bottle or something like this. It has to be plastic, it can't be a can. If you've got one of those laying around, we will use that in one of our activities today. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, boys and girls, let's warm up today with our scarf songs. So get your scarf or your t-shirt or your paper towel or anything that you have, and we're going to sing those songs. Remember that we did them the very first week and we warmed up with them. They're going to be the same songs. Alright. Here we go. Sing along with me. Can you sing loud? Let's sing loud first. Stretching very tall, now I'm very small. Tall, small, now I'm a tiny ball. Good. Let's do it super, super loud this time. How loud can your voices go? Let's do it. Stretching very tall, now I'm very small. Tall, small, now I'm a tiny ball. Good. How about super soft this time? How quietly can you sing this song? Stretching very tall, now I'm very small. Tall, small, now I'm a tiny ball. Good. Do you think you can sing it super slow? Let's try it. Have your scarf ready. Here we go. Stretching very tall, now I'm very small. Tall, small, now I'm a tiny ball. Good, slow singing. Okay, let's try it super fast this time. Here we go. Super, super fast. Ready? Stretching very tall, now I'm very small. Tall, small, now I'm a tiny ball. Ooh, good job. You kept up with me. All right, let's do our siren sounds next. Remember we did those? We're going to start really low with our voices, and then we're going to go really, really, really high and come back down to really low. Can you do that with me? Let's sing on ooh. Here we go. Ooh. Sounds like a siren. Okay, take your scarf this time, and as we go up, I want you to raise your scarf in the air, and as we come back down, I want you to lower your scarf back down. All right, let's try it. Ooh. Good. Do you think we can do that really, really softly, maybe kind of mysterious and slow? Let's try it. Like this. Try it with me. Ooh. Good. I almost ran out of breath. Did you? Let's try it again. Take a deep, deep breath. Big, big breath so we can make it all the way through. That was better. Okay, let's try our siren super fast and super loud. How loud and how fast can you do it? Try to stay with me. Here we go. Woo! Good. One more time. Woo! Good. I think our voices are getting warmed up. Let's sing our firecracker song and then we'll get going with the rest of our class. All right. Here we go. Firecracker, firecracker, what do? You burst and you pop till you just can't stop. Good. Let's sing it really loud this time, as loud as you can. Here we go. Firecracker, firecracker, what do? You burst and you pop till you just can't stop. Good. How about we sing it fast this time? Firecracker, firecracker, what do? You burst and you pop till you just can't stop. Good. Now let's do it quiet. Firecracker, firecracker, what do? You burst and you pop till you just can't stop. Good. I think that song needs to go super loud this time. How loud can we sing? Firecrackers are pretty loud, so I think we need to sing the firecracker song loud. Here we go. Firecracker, firecracker, what do? You burst and you pop till you just can't stop. All right, very good, boys and girls. Let's get on with the rest of our class today. All right, boys and girls, the first instrument we're going to do today is the flute, and I have my mom here who is a great flute player who's going to help us today. So first, go ahead and grab your water bottle or your empty pop bottle that's plastic, and we're going to try blowing into that to see if we can make a sound. Now, I'm not a very good flute player, so it's hard for me to do, but my mom can show us how to do it. So go ahead and try with me. You're going to place it right under your mouth like this and try to blow into it and across the top of it to make a sound. Will you show us? Yeah, so that's the idea. If you can get that sound out of a pop bottle, you could play the flute someday in school. That's the same kind of idea. So here I've got the mouthpiece of the flute. It looks like this. And just as you can see here, there's a little hole in the mouthpiece, just like the pop bottle, that when you put it up to your mouth and you blow across it, it will make a sound. Can you show us that? You hear that? It sounds like a whistle almost. Yeah. Okay, now let's put it together and we'll show them. Now, if you remember at the beginning of class, I said that these are all called woodwind instruments. And last week we learned about brass instruments because they were made out of what? We call them brass instruments. They're made out of brass. Yep. Woodwind instruments were all originally made out of wood. That's why we call them woodwind instruments. Today, flutes aren't made out of wood anymore, but they were originally, so we still call them a woodwind instrument. Another difference with woodwind instruments compared to brass instruments is that they have all of these keys. See how many keys are on this instrument? All of these. We'll show them a little closer. All of these keys here make all different kinds of notes on a woodwind instrument. If you remember, on a brass instrument, we call them valves, and there were only a few of them, right? So that's another difference. So my mom here is going to play a little bit of the flute for us so we can hear how it sounds. As you can see, we can get a range of different notes by pressing down all those keys, right? The flute can play really high. It can play kind of low. It doesn't get too low like some instruments. But so what are these called again? They're not valves like the brass instruments. They're the keys, yep. And we have a mouthpiece, just like a brass instrument, but we blow and we don't buzz our lips. We only buzz our lips for brass instruments. All right, thank you very much. Another woodwind instrument we're going to learn about today is called, well, let's see, does anybody know? I'll show you all the pieces in the case. Yeah, this is called a clarinet, and this is a woodwind instrument, and it's still made out of wood today. You can tell it's kind of painted black wood, but it's still wood. It's not brass or metal or anything, and again, that's why we call it a woodwind instrument. So let's see, I'm going to pull out this piece first. This is the mouthpiece of a clarinet. This is what we blow into to make the sound. Now, I can't just blow into this right now and make a sound. We're missing something right here. I'm going to show you what that is. Right here. This is a little piece of wood that we call the reed. And we put the reed on the back of the mouthpiece, like this. And we hold it in place with this guy here called a ligature. Some big words, I know. But once I put the reed on and tighten it up, here's the full assembled mouthpiece. Now I can make a sound. That's a really high sound, really high and loud, right? But now we can have a sound come out of the mouthpiece. So let me put this together and I'll show you the whole instrument all together. Now a clarinet has one similar feature to a trumpet, and that's where the sound comes out. Do you remember what we call the spot where the sound comes out on the trumpet? The clarinet has one too. It's called a bell. Yep, just like we learned last week, a bell. So this is the bell down here, and the mouthpiece is way at the top. It's all kind of one long line. And just like the flute, what do we call all these? They're not valves like the brass instruments. These are the keys, and we have lots and lots of keys on the clarinet to make lots of different sounds. This is another instrument that you can play when you get older in band class. If you like it, I'll play a little bit for you. You can tell almost that it's made out of wood, right? It has a very, very different sound from a trumpet or a French horn or even the flute. It's a little bit lower than the flute, and it has a little bit more woody sound to it, I think. All right, so that is the clarinet. All right, class, and as promised, the last instrument that we're going to talk about today is a string instrument called the violin. Now, the violin is a different kind of instrument than a woodwind or a brass instrument because there's nowhere to blow into to make the sound. What makes the sound are the strings on the instrument. Now, we can play the strings a couple different ways. You can pluck them, which we call pizzicato. Can you say that with me? Pizzicato. That's an Italian word. And that's one way we can make sounds with the strings, is just plucking them. Pizzicato. The other way is using what we call the bow. Have you seen one of these before? The bow is made up of horsehair. This is actual horsehair on the bow here. And when we put the horsehair onto the string of the violin, it makes a sound like that. It's a little bit louder than plucking, right? So those are the two ways we can make sounds on the violin. Plucking, which is called what? Pizzicato. Or we can use the bow made of horsehair to play the strings. Cool, let's talk a little bit about the parts of the violin for a minute. We have up here what we call the head of the violin. This is where, see these little tuning pins? That's what tune the strings. You can twist these and it will put the strings in tune so that they play the right note. That's what these are for. This is the head of the violin, or the scroll. Sometimes we call it. It looks like a scroll to the side here. And this right here we call the neck. You have a neck on your body, right? You have a head and a neck, just like the violin. The head and the neck. When we carry the violin around, we have to be careful. We carry it by the neck. That's the safest place to hold it, and we tuck it under our side like this. All right, so we have the head and the neck, and this right here is called the body, just like you. You have a head and a neck and a body. The violin does too. Head, neck, body. The body is where the sound resonates. When you play the string, you can see inside these little scrolls here, it's empty inside. This whole body here is empty. So when you play the string, it echoes inside the violin, and that's what gives it its sound. That's what makes it so loud. So I can play just open strings, right? Do you see my hand up here? It's not touching anything on the neck. I can just play open strings. Or I can change the notes. Do you remember how we changed the notes on the brass instruments? What did we use? We used the valves. Remember on the trumpet, we pressed those valves and the notes changed? How about on a woodwind instrument? Remember we had all of those keys up and down the flute and the clarinet? We can change notes on a string instrument too. It's a little bit different. We're going to press our finger down on one of the strings on these tapes here. And that's what changes the note of the violin. So I'll demonstrate here. I'll play Twinkle Twinkle. Did you see my fingers? They were changing the notes so that we could play a tune, right? So that is the violin. And you know, some schools, when you get bigger, some schools you can choose to play the violin also, just like all of the other instruments. All right. Now, one more thing about the violin. Remember, we have the instrument itself, right? We have the head, or the scroll, the neck, where we carry it, and the body, where the sound resonates inside. And we have the bow, which is made of what? Horsehair. Yep. Now, to make the horsehair sound on make the sound on the string, we have to put what we call rosin on the horsehair. That's what this is called. It's made out of tree sap. Isn't that interesting? And we just rub it up and down the horsehair a few times. And now, that's what gives the horsehair its ability to play the string. All right, so violin, bow, and rosin. And that's a little introduction to the violin. So to finish up today, boys and girls, we're going to learn about some musical symbols. And once we learn a little bit about them, then we'll play a game with them. So the first symbol we're going to talk about looks like this. Have you seen one of these before? Maybe. It looks kind of funny, doesn't it? This is called a treble clef. Let me see if I can draw it a little bit better here. There we go. Treble clef. Kind of sounds like trouble, like when you get in trouble, but it's treble. It looks like this, the word. So the treble clef means that the notes written next to the treble clef are going to be played really high on the instrument or sung really high with your voice. Remember when we did our sirens and we go really, really, really high at the top and then we come back down low? It's the same thing. Treble clef represents those high notes. High notes. Now the other symbol, I'll write it on the back of my whiteboard here, looks like this. If you can't ignore all the lines in the background, we're just looking at this symbol here. This is called a bass clef. Can you say that? Bass. Bass is spelled with 2 S's. Now the bass clef represents notes and sounds that are really down low. Like when we do our sirens and we go up high and we come back down low. And last week you might remember we played a game on the piano where I played high sounds and low sounds. So the bass clef represents those low sounds. So let's try a little game. When I have the treble clef side facing you, I want your hands to go up high in the air for high sounds. And if I show you the bass clef side, I want your hands to go in your lap for low sounds. All right, let's see how quick we can do this. Here we go. Treble clef high, good. Bass clef low. That's the idea. All right, I'm just gonna flash them now. I'm not gonna say anything, and I want you to try and put your hands in the right spot as fast as you can. Good job. Could you keep up with me? So let's just review quick. Treble clef, high notes, really high like our sirens. And bass clef, low notes. Well, thank you so much for joining us again this week, boys and girls, learning about the woodwind instruments. Remember last week we talked about brass instruments, which have what characteristics? Let's review. Mouthpiece, bell, where the sound comes out, made of brass, and they have valves to change the notes, usually just a few valves. This week we learned about woodwind instruments. Woodwinds are made of wood, typically, right? The flute isn't anymore, but they used to all be made of wood. They have lots and lots of keys, right, to change the notes. Lots and lots of different ones, compared to the brass only has a few valves. And they're made of wood, like we said. So, and oh, we also talked about a string instrument, right? The violin. And what's different about the strings? We don't blow into them, right? We use the bow with the horsehair to make the sound. And how we change the sound is by using our fingers pressing the string at different places up on the neck. All right, so next week we're going to review the woodwind and the brass instruments, and we're going to talk about two new instruments, one in each family, the saxophone and the trombone. And we're going to sing some songs together, and that will close up our time next week. All right, so thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.